The song that changed everything. The afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, casting long shadows across the empty stage. Simon Cowell sat in his judge's chair, arms crossed, his expression unreadable as always. To his left, the other judges chatted quietly among themselves, waiting for the next audition to begin. It had been a long day. Dozens of hopefuls had walked across that stage, each carrying their dreams in their hearts. Some made the judges smile. Others made them wince. But most simply faded into the background, forgettable in the endless parade of talent that filled these audition days. Simon glanced at his watch. His mind was already drifting toward the evening ahead when he heard footsteps approaching from backstage. He looked up without much interest, expecting another nervous performer, another rehearsed story, another attempt to stand out. What he saw made him pause. A young boy walked onto the stage with quiet confidence. He couldn't have been more than 13 years old, slight in build, with dark hair and warm brown eyes that seemed to hold something deeper than his years would suggest. He wore simple clothes, a white button-down shirt and dark pants, nothing flashy, nothing designed to catch attention. But there was something about the way he carried himself, a calmness that seemed unusual for someone so young standing on such a massive stage. "Hello," Simon said, his British accent cutting through the silence. "And who are you?" The boy stepped up to the microphone and smiled gently. "My name is Miguel Santos," he said. His voice was soft but clear, with a slight accent that spoke of home being far from here. "I'm 13 years old, and I'm from Manila, in the Philippines." "Miguel," Simon repeated, leaning forward slightly. "And what brings you all the way from the Philippines to this stage?" Miguel looked down for a moment, gathering his thoughts. When he looked back up, there was something vulnerable in his expression. "I come from a family that has been very fortunate," he began slowly. "The family has money, and I've had opportunities that many people never get. But I've also seen that money doesn't make everything easy. It doesn't cure loneliness. It doesn't bring people closer together." The auditorium grew quieter. Even the crew members stopped moving, drawn in by the boy's honest words. "My father works all the time," Miguel continued. "He's always traveling, always in meetings. My mother tries to keep our family together, but it's hard when someone is always gone. For a long time, I felt like I was invisible in my own home. Like I was just another thing that existed in our big house but didn't really matter." Simon's expression softened slightly. He uncrossed his arms. "Music became my friend," Miguel said. "When I sang, I felt like I could say things I couldn't say any other way. I could feel things that I had pushed down inside. And I thought, maybe if I came here, to this stage, and shared my voice, my father would finally hear me. Really hear me." There was a weight to his words that settled over everyone present. This wasn't a rehearsed sob story designed to manipulate the judges. This was a boy speaking his truth, simple and pure. "So what are you going to sing for us today?" Simon asked, his voice gentler than usual. "I'm going to sing Hotel California," Miguel replied. "It's a song about feeling trapped in a beautiful place. About wanting to leave but not knowing how. I think that's how I've felt sometimes. Trapped in a life that looks perfect from the outside but feels empty inside." Simon nodded slowly. "All right, Miguel, let's hear it." Miguel closed his eyes for a moment, centering himself. The music began, that iconic guitar riff that everyone in the auditorium recognized immediately. It was a bold choice, a classic that had been performed countless times, by countless artists. A song that could either showcase exceptional talent or expose weakness mercilessly. Then Miguel began to sing. His voice started soft, almost fragile, wrapping around the opening lines with a tenderness that transformed the familiar words into something new. There was no showing off, no vocal gymnastics designed to impress. Instead, he sang with pure emotion, each word weighted with meaning, each phrase delivered with the kind of honesty that can't be taught. As he moved through the first verse, something remarkable happened. The judges stopped looking at their notes. The crew members put down their equipment. Everyone in that auditorium became completely still, drawn into the world Miguel was creating with his voice. When he reached the chorus, his voice grew stronger, more confident, but never lost that quality of vulnerability that made it so compelling. He wasn't just performing the song, he was living it, breathing it, offering up pieces of his own story through someone else's words. Simon watched the boy intently. Over decades in the music industry, he had heard thousands of performances. He could spot technical skill in an instant, could identify pitch problems or weak phrasing without even trying. But what he was hearing now went beyond technique. This was artistry in its purest form. This was a young soul bearing itself to the world, using music as its language. As Miguel sang about mirrors on the ceiling and champagne on ice, Simon felt something unexpected happen. His throat tightened. His eyes began to sting. He blinked rapidly, trying to maintain his composure, but the emotion was too strong. The other judges noticed. One reached over and touched Simon's arm gently, acknowledging what they were all experiencing. Miguel's voice soared through the final verses, each word carrying the weight of his longing, his loneliness, his hope that someone, somewhere, would truly hear him. When he reached the famous final lines about checking out but never leaving, his voice cracked slightly, not from lack of skill, but from the sheer emotion of the moment. That tiny imperfection made it all the more beautiful, all the more real. The last note hung in the air for a long moment after Miguel finished. Silence filled the auditorium, thick and profound. Then, slowly, Simon Cowell did something he rarely did during auditions. He stood up. His hand moved to his face, wiping away a tear that had escaped despite his best efforts. Then his hands came together, and he began to clap. The other judges immediately joined him, rising to their feet. The applause grew louder as crew members added their voices to the ovation. Miguel stood on that stage, looking small and vulnerable, tears streaming down his own face as he watched the judges' reaction. Simon walked forward, something he almost never did during initial auditions. He came right up to the edge of the stage, looking directly at Miguel. "Do you know what you just did?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. Miguel shook his head slightly, unable to speak. "You made us feel something real," Simon said. "In this business, we see so many people trying to be impressive, trying to be perfect. But you were just yourself. You shared your heart with us. And that, Miguel, is what true artistry is about." He paused, composing himself. "I want to tell you something, and I want you to really hear this. Your father may be too busy to listen right now, but the whole world is going to hear you. And when they do, I think he'll realize what he's been missing." Miguel nodded, tears continuing to fall, but now there was a smile breaking through. "Thank you," he whispered. "It's 4 yeses from us," Simon said, looking at the other judges, who were all nodding emphatically. "You're going through to the next round. But more than that, you've reminded all of us why we do this. You've reminded us what music is supposed to be about." As Miguel walked off the stage, his steps were lighter than when he'd walked on. He had come to America hoping his father would hear him. What he didn't know yet was that this performance would indeed reach his father, along with millions of others around the world. Sometimes the greatest performances aren't about technical perfection. They're about a moment of pure human connection, when one person's truth resonates with another's heart. Miguel Santos had created such a moment, and in doing so, had changed not just his own life, but touched everyone who witnessed it. In the end, the richest gift he had to give wasn't his family's wealth. It was his willingness to be vulnerable, to be real, to share his heart through song. And that gift, as Simon's tears proved, was priceless.